Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to do kind of a tutorial. I'm still working on the new in this video, but I want to do a type of tutorial to show an advanced technique that I use in masking that saves a lot of masking tape and makes very crisp lines whenever using the masking tape and painting over it. Then I want to do a more basic detailing tutorial when it comes to how to panel line and how to apply water slide decals. And with that, let's get started. So now let's talk about masking. As we see here, you need a hobby knife, good sharp pair of tweezers, and I use Tamiya masking tape. I find it's the easiest to use for model kits. It peels off without peeling paint off. It's low tack. It's perfect to use, and I buy it in different sizes. So, you know, it comes in any size you really need, up to giant roll. And today I'm going to be using this part, or these parts, as a example of how I get these hard to get areas easier and the most efficient way I know how. So now that I've got everything a little bit more set up, let's start. So simply, I'm going to take a decent sized piece of masking tape and I'm going to run it along the part. Doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to cover the entire part that you are trying to mask off. And now to take a toothpick. Let me see if I can get this in frame. And I'm going to trace the let's see if we can get it to focus. Trace the part, or the panel line, I mean, that you want to isolate. Just like that. And then we're going to come down here and do the same deal for this part. Okay, just like that. Now the next step is a little tricky and a little bit disheartening sometimes, and I was nervous, really nervous the first time I ever did this. But you're going to take your hobby knife and you're going to very carefully cut along where you just indented with the toothpick. Okay, now that you've done that, you should be able to grab it and pull it out. Now what I like to do is I like to take the toothpick and run it along the panel line again, just to get the tape good and adhered all the way around it so that you don't have any bleed. So now let's do it for this side. let's see how we did. Just gonna get your nice sharp tweezers in there. There we go, I'm gonna start now. Okay, apparently I need a little bit more on that corner there. Trace it down, cut it out, there it went. Felt it give. There it goes. And voila. Once again, take your toothpick, run it along the line here to push that excess tape in the panel line, and then of course tuck the rest of it, and we'll add some more tape to this to cover here and down here, and there we go. This piece is all ready for paint. The quick thing I want to address or add is whenever you are bordering something that's very complicated, or whenever you have something like the shield, for instance, planning on masking off these two sides here, you're going to need to put pieces in here and kind of border it in places. So you need some small but custom length pieces. This is how I do this. I have my cutting mat here, which has a ruler on it, and I will literally just cut the tape in increments as small as I want, and use those to fill in little areas. And you grab it with this, and there you go. You have a very little piece that you can then put in place, and voila. We have now come to the segment of the video where I want to go over panel lining techniques. These are the panel lining techniques that I use. There are multiple techniques out there. They make Gundam markers and such, but the two things that I use are the micron pins and the panel accents from Tamiya. I prefer the panel accents, but for fine-tuning or really hard to get to flow areas, the micron pin is a very good tool to use. It comes in various sizes. You also need lighter fluid. I find lighter fluid is actually easier on the paints underneath than enamel thinner. I have enamel thinner. You can use enamel thinner, but be very careful. And to remove the panel accent, you can use a Q-tip, but what I prefer is actually the Gaia Notes Finish Masters. They're flat on the surface here, and they're rounded everywhere else, and the whole thing gets filled up with lighter fluid or enamel thinner, and it makes it very easy to get into hard to reach spots and use it for precision removal. Now let's get started on actually panel lining a part. Okay, so now time to actually panel line. I'm going to be using the black panel accent. You always want to shake the bottle first to get any sediment that might be dropped at the bottom, to make it where it's as thick as possible. And once again, for demonstration purposes, I'll be using this part here. Now, whenever applying the panel liner, you want to do it in a way that it is easy to enter the panel line, but without making a mess. So in this part, I'll actually be entering here, and hopefully it'll actually fill the whole thing. And then I'll be entering from here, and it'll fill backwards. You do it in a dab, you don't wipe, and you let it flow. You can actually hold it into the panel line and it should go throughout the whole panel line. If you have to move up here, you can just dab so that you have minimal cleanup at the end. Now, this is gloss paint. You can see it's got a sheen, and that's really all you need most times for this panel accent to flow freely. Some people would still put a gloss coat over this, but I find it still works very well if you have a gloss surface like this right here. Now, if you were going to do it over a matte surface, I would suggest gloss coating, doing the panel line, and then the decals, and then put the matte coat back over top of that. Okay, so we open the jar, wipe any of the excess away. And if I can catch this on camera, it would be great. You just touch it right into the panel line, just like that. Don't worry about the little pool, that'll be fine, it'll be cleaned up later. Same thing here, just dab. And as you can see, it's starting to crawl. Get a little bit more, dab the excess off, stick it in the panel line. And gravity is your friend. Gravity does most of the work with this panel lining. So, as you can see, it is making its way down. And we'll touch it up here, just to get it across that panel line there. Get a little bit more on the brush. We can go from the other side. Touch it on the corner, and that time it really took off. Oh shoot. Well, don't worry, just grab your Q-tip and soak it up, and then that will make for minimal cleanup later. The lighter fluid will take care of it after it dries a bit. I'll be back when this dries a little bit for the cleanup. So it's been a few minutes, and you can tell that the accent has dried. Unfortunately, I made a mistake on there, but that's kind of a good thing in this video, because you can see in a minute just how easy it is to clean this up. So I'm going to take Mr. Finish Master here. There we go. A little bit of lighter fluid. And I'm just going to coat the Finish Master in lighter fluid, like so. Now, lighter fluid does evaporate a little bit faster than enamel thinner, so you kind of want to get at it pretty quick. But you literally just wipe it over the edge, and it's gone. Same thing here. Wipe it. Wipe it. And it's gone. Up here. This is why I love Finish Masters. They're super flat, so they can get over the surface without getting down into the panel line itself, which cotton swabs have a tendency to do. And you're left with this very pristine, very clean panel line. Now we've come to the part of the video where I want to go over water slides in a little bit more detail. And what you'll need is your guide to show you where the water slides are going to go. On the Real Grades, it's the very, very back page. You're going to need your part that you're going to decal. I use a paint tray with water in it. Room temperature water I find works very well. And the Q-tips, I usually use a sharper Q-tip. You can get these at hobby shops. I think I bought these on USA Gundam Store. But this is what I actually use to move the part from the backing to the part, and use the normal Q-tip to roll it out. You're going to need a hobby knife to cut the decals out. Now that I've gone over what you'll need, let's get to putting a decal on. Okay, so in the manual, it shows that we are going to be using a number 36 on this part. So simply just cut the border of the part. Be sure not to interfere with any of the other parts. Now I will add that these are pre-cut, meaning that the maker of these, which was Delpy Decal, already made it where the edges, as you can see there, are separate from the backing. With a non-pre-cut decal, you would actually have to cut as close to the decal as possible so that you could transfer it over to the part. And the next thing that, or I forgot to mention this, and I can't believe I did, is one of the most important things I use is tweezers. Now, I have these reverse locking tweezers, but you can use any tweezer, it doesn't matter. But this makes it way easier to do this. You just clamp it not on the decal itself, so as you can see, the decal is still free to come off, and then you simply hold it in the water. Now, a good decal, a good water slide, it does not take very long in the water to start releasing, but I like to pull it out of the water before it actually falls off into the water. And it shows in the manual that it's going to go right here, so that should be enough. I drain the excess onto the paper towel, hover over the part, push the decal up, and then while it's still good and wet, you can fine-tune where it goes. In this case, it's going to go right there. And that looks pretty good. Now, you can also get the Q-tip a little bit wet and dab some water around the decal to get it loosened up again. That way you can freely move it without damaging the decal. Alright, then you take the dry Q-tip and you just dab around the edge real quick to suck that water out from underneath it. And then you just dab straight down, and then you want to roll it. You don't want to apply any pressure, you just want to roll over the decal like so. And there you go. Now, before I end this video, I want to talk about something I didn't talk about when I was actually putting the water slide on, as most of the water slides I have left to do on this don't require using Mark Setter or Mark Softer, so I'll just describe what they are for. Now, Mark Setter is if you have a surface that's not flat and you're putting a decal on it. Mark Setter is good for more adhesion to the part. So you would put this on the surface before applying the water slide. That way, whenever the water slide hits the surface, it contours a little bit better. Now, Mark Softer does exactly what it says. It softens up the decal. It kind of eats away at the edges of the decal to make it an easier transition. And with the water slides I've been using, they're so thin that you barely see an edge. But if you had a thicker edge, this would eat it down. This also helps contour the decal to a non-flat surface even more. And it also makes it where you can have the decal mold down into panel lines and such. You would put a decal on, let it dry, take an X-Acto knife or a hobby knife and cut along the panel line and put some of this in it, and it would actually curl those ends into the panel line and make it look a little bit more neat and uniform. So that's just a quick overview of what these two products do. And with that, that will conclude my video on, I guess you could say, a tutorial on my advanced technique of masking, basic detailing as far as panel lining and decals go. So if you follow the steps that I have included in this video, you too can have results just like this. Once again, a like and subscribe would be appreciated if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.